Hi guys, we are back, we are live. I'm 1 minute early, but I know that when we do a live, there's always a little bit of a lag. But we're back, guys. Thursday night, as always, our regular slot with the Property Sourcing Show. And tonight, guys, what I really want to talk to you about is attracting the right kind of investor, whether that's for your property sourcing business or whether that's to scale your own property portfolio. The fundamentals of attracting the right kind of investors remain the same. Okay, so whether you are running a deal packaging business, running a property sourcing business, running a property trading business, all one and the same, or whether you are already an investor with a small portfolio or more and you want to grow or scale that business. 9 times out of 10, most people want to raise private investor finance or find investors to source for so that they can scale much quicker. Now, what I do see, guys, hopefully you can hear me okay. I've had to disconnect my own Facebook page because there's always a bit of a back chat. So when it comes to attract investors, guys, let's cut right to the chase. So when it comes to attracting investors, whether that is for your property sourcing business or whether it's angel investors to fund, to scale your own portfolio, so many people in the industry get their approach all wrong. And I mean like really, really, really wrong. So here's the thing. When it comes to attracting the right kind of investors to work with, guys, it really is a fine art. It takes skill. It takes strategy. It takes consistency. So I'm going to say that again. It takes skill, it takes strategy, and it takes consistency. Now, the really good news is that all three of these things, skill, strategy, and consistency, they can be learned. Okay, they do not have to be things that are bespoke to you. These do not have to be qualities that you're born with. They also do not have to be qualities that are only unique to you, that only a certain type of person can have. All three of these qualities, skill, strategy, and consistency, they can all be learned. Everyone can raise finance if, and it's a pretty big if, they would only apply themselves and actually commit to the journey. See, there are many dimensions, guys, that you have to consideration, or you have to take into consideration if you're hoping to work with investors on your property business. Now, what I did during the week, I condensed a really short checklist. So if you're watching this live and you don't have the checklist, just put checklist in the comments below and I'll make sure that we drop you across a condensed version of that PDF. But essentially, there are maybe 5 or 6 things, guys, that you want to have ticked off, have rock solid, have airtight, have fine-tuned in order to be able to raise finance from the right person. Here's the thing. It seems just about anybody, their granny and their donkey can call themselves an investor in the current climate. Okay, I've spoken to many people who have told me that they are investors, but whenever you dig a little bit deeper, they are not investors. So first of all, you have to be really wary of the tire kicker, the soul destroyer. There are plenty of them out there. So when you're working with investors, you should only be seeking top quality, top notch, 5-star investors. So over the course of my journey in property, which is touching on about 6 years now, I've only ever worked with 3 investors. The reason that I've only ever had to work with 3 investors is because the investors that I have on board are top notch, top quality investors and exceptionally good people. That's really important. That's really important, but that's maybe a tangent for another day. But essentially, the 5 things, guys, that you want to make sure that you've got ticked off when it comes to raising finance, they're pretty simple, and I want to run through them very quickly in tonight's mini training. Number 1, investor brochure. So, do you have one? I am surprised at the amount of people who I speak to within the property industry whose main aim is actually to raise investor finance that don't have an investor brochure. And I speak to these people on a daily basis. So in short, you absolutely need one. Sometimes it's called the investor brochure. Sometimes it's called an investor prospectus. It's not to be confused with an investor pack, which is essentially an investment proposal of a potential deal that you have either to source or to raise funds for. It's not the same. An investor brochure / prospectus, think about it in this way. When you walk into the travel agents, please Jesus, we're all going on summer holiday this year. But if you walk into the travel agents, and you see the shiny, sexy, glossy brochures in the travel agent's office that are, seductively selling you Bora Bora, that are really seductively trying to entice you to book the next holiday to the Maldives. That's how I want you to think about your investor brochure. Essentially, that brochure or prospectus should sell you, and a really, really well done one will do the heavy lifting for you. If you don't have one, my advice is step number one, get an investor brochure / prospectus in place, get it up and running ASAP. You can hand this baby out everywhere you go. I would keep a physical copy on my person, and I would have a digital copy that you can send at the drop of a hat. Number two, what else should you have ticked off when it comes to raising and attracting the right investor into your business? Really simply, it's credibility. Okay, I want you to sing about your credibility. I want you to showcase your credibility. I want you to dance all around about your credibility. Here's the thing, no credibility equals no chance of raising finance. Now, don't be deterred if you're coming at this from a very new, fresh perspective. A lot of people don't actually recognize the credibility and the transferable skills that they can bring from their current, previous, past employments or appointments that actually transfer across as very credible and skillful sets of qualities that they can use within their property journey. So if you have some experience in property, if you have a portfolio, if you have worked with investors before, that's amplified credibility. Sing about it, showcase it, dance, tell us about it. No credibility equals no chance. But if you're coming at this from a relatively newcomer's perspective, and please remember that every professional now was once a novice then, okay? So if you're coming at this with no previous property credibility, showcase your skills, your transferable skills and your talents from previous employments, past employments, appointments, anything outside of the property business that you believe adds to your credibility and your skill set. Number three, and so many people miss this out, highlight your exit strategies, okay? So it's really, really important, guys, to remember that whether you are sourcing for an investor, whether you are actually sourcing them an investment property, or whether you are raising finance from them, it's really important that in your proposal that you are highlighting exit strategies. Now, why? Why, Danielle? Really plain and simple. It highlights and demonstrates a really thorough approach to the due diligence that you have done, and it lets the investor see, or potential investor see, that you have given consideration to all eventualities. Perhaps that money was set aside for a flip project. What if the market takes a slight dip? What is our contingency here? Okay, if this property was to be rented out at X amount and that market value no longer is appropriate, what other strategies do we have in place to maximize that income? Is serviced accommodation an option? If we can't get the flip resale value, what can we potentially refinance the property for and rent it out in the long term? Always have exit strategies. Never turn a blind eye to it. And when you are working with investors, demonstrate your exit strategies. Number four, really important. I fucked this one up in the past. Let your investor know, do you require all the investment monies upfront or in stages? Okay, and I can speak from experience because I messed this up in my early days when I was sourcing for other investors. Now, if you are sourcing, be super clear on your upfront fees, be super clear on your non-refundable fees, be super clear on your terms for final payments. Never, ever, ever have requests for money come as a surprise to your investor. It does not look good, and it will leave your investor with a super sour taste in their mouth. Rolling back a number of years ago, I was project managing a refurb for one of my VIP investors, and I didn't articulate that the contractor would require staged payments. That was my problem. I did not communicate that. I was relatively early on in my journey, and it was something that I missed out. But that particular investor, when I then approached them for payments, when they were not expecting to have to put out that money, when that timescale was not clearly articulated, they were exceptionally pissed off, and rightly so. I made a mistake that time round. Best believe I never made that mistake again. So my advice to you is, number four, do you require all the investment monies upfront or in stages? Be super clear about it and articulate it seriously well. Number five, deploy a consistent marketing campaign. So many people fuck this up. Excuse my French, but you know my attitude by now. See, your marketing campaign has to fit the perfect investor for you. Remember, it's different courses for different courses. One size does not fit all. But most people actually don't have a specific strategic marketing campaign that targets their ideal investor. So my advice to you is to find a pain point for your specific investor. My ideal investor may not be who your ideal investor is. That's okay. It's, again, one size does not fit all. But best believe you need to have an investor ideal client. You need to have an investor avatar, and you need to speak to that particular person through a consistent marketing campaign. So let me run through those 5 things again, guys. Investor brochure. Think sexy, Bora Bora, Maldives, glossy magazine in the travel agents. Does the heavy lifting for you. Number 2, credibility. Showcase it, sing about it, dance about it. No credibility equals no chance. Number 3, highlight your exit strategies, okay? It lets the potential investor see that you have demonstrated some due diligence and you have given consideration to all eventualities. Number 4, do you require the monies up front, or is it going to be in stages? Don't make the mistake that I have and leave a very sour taste in the investor's mouth. Number 5, deploy a consistent marketing campaign. Now, perhaps, guys, you have attracted some ideal investor leads, okay? So perhaps you've caught the attention of a number of potential investor clients and you're at first base, right? So what comes next? Right, obviously your eventual aim, or at least I would certainly hope so, is for you and that potential investor to form a longer term relationship and make some music/money together. So how do you move to the next phase? Well, first things first, you need to know personal values. Remember, guys, the start of tonight's mini training, I have said up to this point, and I'm touching on 6 years now, I've only worked with 3 grade A investors. First thing I said about these investors was they were really, really, really good people. Okay, they're really good people. So you need to know their personal values. Why? Because you want to know how you're going to behave when the chips are down. No project is without its bumps along the way. Okay, are you going to stand by that investor, or are you going to cut and run? Second, you want to know what makes the investor's going to want to know what makes you a safe bet. So what is your experience level? How many projects have you maybe successfully completed? What have you done in the past when you've hit some issues? How did you get around some problems? Are you an active problem solver? Can you demonstrate the ability to actively problem solve? Are you someone who takes initiative? They may also want to know how many JV partners that you've worked with in the past. They may also ask for references from previous JV partners. The second thing that an investor lead might want to know is actually about the deal itself. So if you are raising funds for a particular deal, you want to describe it in as much detail as possible. This is also the case if you are sourcing and you have a deal, okay? Describe in as much detail as possible. Don't say something like, I've got a cracking commercial conversion and it's £150,000 cash. You'll get an amazing return. Are you interested? There's simply not enough detail in there for any reasonable investor to make a decision. So let's talk spreadsheets. Everything down in black and white. So give 2 or 3 exit strategies. What's the flip? What's the projected resale? What's the contingency? If we can't resale, what might we refinance at? What might our rent look like? Could we maximize that rental income by SAing? Several exit options. Provide a good level of security for your investor funds. Typically speaking, first charge on the property is the best option. Okay, so top tips, guys. Aside from attracting investors, top tips, take time to explain your values and get to know each other's requirements. Really, really important. Typically speaking, send a deal analyzer, okay, with exit strategies clearly laid out. Give several options. If you are looking to raise funds, provide adequate security for the investor funds. And finally, put everything in a legal agreement. And lastly, communicate. You cannot communicate too much, guys, when you're dealing with an investor. Now, let me see if I can share my screen. Share screen. Okay, so guys, during the week, I prepared a super quick PDF, and it's attracting the investors, the checklist. If you do not have this PDF checklist and you'd like a quick copy, just comment checklist in the comments below, and I'll make sure we get you across the checklist first thing tomorrow morning. Okay, I hope this session of the Property Sourcing Show has been really, really useful, guys. We'll be back at the same time next week, 7:30 every Thursday, inside the Property Sourcing Made Simple community with another episode of the Property Sourcing Show. Hope it's been useful. Speak soon, guys.